to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
And there we are. Now we're live. Episode 437, mid-season update, part 3, as we talk about Rift Herald and some other items tonight. Sean joins us once again. Welcome back, buddy.
What's up? How you doing?
I'm all right. Punch is back.
I'm here.
Thank
I'm ready
God.
to talk about things.
Still talking about going 20 and something on Aurelia and losing.
Yep, well, that's the state of things.
How could
Actually,
he
I
not
won a
talk
game
about
the other day.
Wow,
It was
congrats.
fantastic. Yeah.
Congratulations.
I tell the team we should try winning more, but it hasn't caught on yet.
It's not sticking.
No.
I tell that to you guys and it doesn't stick, so...
Hey, we had a pretty good weekend, I'd say, overall.
You had a hell of a game.
I mean, no, I don't even mean just that one game. Like, we had some pretty good games overall as a team. Like,
I keep hearing this thing where you're like, every time it's like, you've had a hell of a game, but there's no talk of this game. It's just you had a hell of a game. That's like me telling Sean, you played doo-doo. But we don't talk about that. I'm like, hey,
Top
Sean,
lane.
you had a hell of a game.
What do you want? A line-by-line itemization of everything that he did? I mean, like, he fucking
I want to know what
needed
champion he played.
He
you
needed
could take a
to-
fucking wild guess. But Ari, I went 20, 22, and 13, I think it was.
The team needed somebody to carry, and he stepped his ass up and carried.
Thank God, finally
Which
did
might
something
be
right.
the first time. Might be the first time, like, since starting mid lane that I carried really, really hard. But, I mean, we had some other good games. I played Vigar for the first time, and that went not as bad as I thought it would, which is very easy when you just hit R, and they die.
Who did you play top with me the other day? You played
Nautilus.
Nautilus. Yeah,
I was
You were
pretty
hammered.
drunk
Yeah,
when I did it, and we got a
drunk.
nice solo queue win.
Oh my God.
Yep. Nice little solo queue win.
Well, let's talk about some League of Legends this evening as we roll into the mid-season update, Part 3. If you've already missed Part 1 and Part 2, you can find those at a YouTube channel, or you can find them over at TrinityForceNetwork.com. Of course, we're on iTunes and Stitcher and any other of your podcast apps. If there is a podcast app you use that we are not on, please email us at feedback@TrinityForcePodcast.com, and we will try to get on there for you. So we want to be able to get out there for anybody and everybody who listens to podcasts. So
How would they know if they
because
were listening?
I've had people be like, hey, a long time ago I had a person who got a new car that had a Microsoft radio in it, powered by Microsoft, and they used AHA radio. I didn't even know that was a thing, but they were like, hey, I would love it if you put it on that so I can pull it up in my car. No problem.
Oh.
So if you have any of those things, I don't know what other platforms there are, but most apps just pull from our RSS feed because they pull from iTunes. So let's
I
talk
don't want
about
Microsoft touching my car.
my car's powered by Microsoft.
Cool.
All right, let's talk about Rift Herald because that's probably the big that's one of the larger scale updates in this patch besides some of the items that we talked about last time. And a very long time ago, Sean and the rest of us had a discussion about Rift Herald, and I think that's kind of where Sean wants to start this off at.
Yeah, so that was probably 3 months ago. At this point, it was right after Dom came back. We finally had documents again. That was a great thing. We had kind of a discussion on where Rift Herald was at and the fact that Rift Herald was a thing that didn't really matter that much. If you got it, it was like cool. If you had the buff, it didn't really feel like it was that impressive. So Riot has made some pretty drastic changes to Rift Herald, and I am a giant fan because I brought up that I wanted this exact change like 3 months ago.
All right,
Great.
I want to quick go over it. Slaying the Rift Herald now drops a usable item that summons the Rift Herald to your lane. Rift Herald still only spawns one time per game and spawns at 8 minutes in. As an ally, the Rift Herald will push down the nearest lane, reducing enemy buildings to rubble unless forcibly stopped. Fighting against her in lane is similar to fighting her in the pit, poke her in the eye to send her crying home to the void. If you've summoned the Rift Herald as an ally, She ignores champions, and then also upon seeing a turret, she'll charge at it, dealing 150 plus 25% of her current HP in damage and taking that in recoil damage. And then there are some videos floating around out there. If you're curious before the patch hits this week and you kind of want to see what you're going to be going up against, I highly recommend you check them out because it looks impressive, the amount of damage that she is doing and the shit that she's pulling in lane.
Before we talk about that, did we talk about the fact that you get an empowered Baron recall as long as you have the item?
I did not.
Yeah, so after
so before you use it, so that's interesting. Like a small little buff, like a buff before you actually use the crazy sieging.
That's kind of like pick it up, immediately back, take advantage of the recall, go by, head back to lane, do whatever.
So you're not heavily punished for spending the time taking it.
Right. Well, you get a little boost if you in fact do get it.
Because your time is valuable in laning phase. So get back.
Well, before we start talking about strategy too, I mean that's great. That's a good piece because I wanted to jump into more strategy. That's why I'm trying to segue here.
We didn't hear the full story from Chira though. About why he is the mastermind behind these changes, and Riot listens to the podcast.
So, like I said, Rift Herald didn't feel good to take ever. Like it was. We can talk about it as. All right. Did any of you guys see it as a consolation prize to not getting Dragon? Because it didn't even feel like a consolation.
It was supposed to be that, but yeah, it just felt like terrible.
I mean, when it first came out, it was not good, and then eventually it was really good, and then they changed, like they screwed with it so many times. I kind of wonder if there was just change fatigue setting in and people stopped caring at all. But definitely for the first 5 months of this season, it's been like, oh, I'm going to grab this because there's nothing else we can do right now.
Yep, 100%.
It's a win harder mechanism, and it's not so much even like fatigue. It's the fact that you didn't really see use out of it, because by the time that you could take Rift Herald successfully, if you weren't already ahead, like if you tried to sneak it in, you were getting that item on a solo laner who was probably likely already ahead because they had to come down to take it, right? So
or on an assassin jungler.
Yeah, or that. And so you're already are probably ahead, even if not snowballing hard. And then by the time you got it, you're not pushing hard with it anymore because you're starting the team fight or you're starting to skirmish, so you're around people more often. And so like the people you would think like, all right, we want this out of Shen because Shen's split pushing all the time and he can split push harder and faster with this. Well, you're not ahead in lane as Shen, so you can't go get it. So there's just a bunch of little problems with the Rift Herald and its current incarnation. That was
I think one thing that also like that this iteration of Rift Herald suffered from is that like that side of the map is associated with Baron. You think of a buff that you take advantage of quickly and is like a limited time window to do really cool stuff. Whereas like when you have Baron buff, whereas Dragon is a passive buff for the rest of the game. You feel like that's always on that side of the map. I mean, obviously Elder Dragon coming into play changes that a little bit, but then you gave Rift Herald this like essentially a passive buff for 20 minutes, which gave you a little bit of a power boost early on, but really didn't help you do anything quickly. And so I think that this change giving something where you can immediately siege down turrets super, super hard, because I mean, the chunk that it takes is crazy. Like it's like a 30%, and then it still beats on this turret and takes no damage for the turret at all.
I mean, if you take it, you're almost guaranteeing your team first turret blood if you haven't already gotten that.
Yeah. And one of the things that intrigues me about this is that it's good for anybody on the team in theory, whereas the current Rift Herald is really only good for realistically your top laner, maybe your jungler and everything, but like the reality is that it's only good if you're by yourself. Any of the benefits that you get from it are gone like right after your first auto attack or something. Yeah, whereas this, you can pick it up and then go to bot lane, and because it's like you're turning it into a 3v2 or a 2.5v2 or something like that, like it becomes an interesting situation down there, and there's less armor. I mean, no, never mind. The armor and shit expires before this thing spawns, so
it has way more strategy to it. Just in the fact that now you're going to be able to see a top laner pick it up, have teleport, blow it in lane, teleport down, and basically have this thing going for free turrets while you get Dragon. Like you're going to be able to set plays up across the map that you might not have been able to do otherwise, and put up like multiple threats at once, which is pretty sweet. I mean, if you have it and mid turret isn't down yet and you end up taking a dragon or something like that, you can immediately pop it with your team to just run down mid lane and pick up a free turret off that. There's going to be a bunch of uses for this, and that it's like it allows you to capitalize on objectives. I mean, you could use it to just shove down and take the first turret immediately. You could use it to set up plays later. You could use it to force early mid game turrets. Like this is already, in theory, way more fun to use than the previous iteration ever was, and it's not even implemented yet.
I'm curious to see if this iteration of the Rift Herald, if you take it at any point, if you're using it to, like you said, you have teleport, right? I wonder if you drop it in top lane or bot or wherever the enemy isn't. Again, you're setting up yourself to take dragon, like you said, but you're dropping it there, and then you're essentially getting 2 free turrets out of it.
That's exactly right.
So I want to clarify one point before we get into the strategy. I don't know if it's going to be a big deal, but you only get the Eye of the Herald for 240 seconds. So for 4 minutes, you get this item. You know, that's a long time to make decisions, especially in League of Legends and everything, but it's not like you can hold this until the 20-minute mark. You know, I mean, unless you get it really late or something like that. But it's not like you can get this at spawn and then hold it for 10 minutes and then use it. Like you gotta start planning.
In theory, have it at the 20-minute mark if it just hasn't been taken up until this point. Like, I mean, even if you got it at 8 minutes, you can hold on to it until the 12-minute mark. And it spawns at 8 minutes, so I mean, you're gonna have it to like, even if you got it right away, you're gonna have it to like 12:30, 13 minutes.
Let's do
this strategy. Let's theory craft this a little bit, maybe.
Well, I was gonna say, like, real quick gut checks out of everybody. Do you think this is worth skipping dragon over?
It depends. It depends.
It's so much harder to take.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying a gut check.
Well, it isn't, and it isn't, because have you seen any of the junglers being able to solo it videos yet?
Yeah, but I haven't paid close attention.
How long does it take them in general?
I mean, it takes about as long as it previously did. The difference is now, like, you can move out of the way when it goes to swing so that the jungler can walk past it while it's swinging and hit it in the eye, which you weren't able to do previously. So, like, you can actually, like, I mean, it takes probably an equivalent amount of time to take. It might take a little bit longer. I think it's a bit tankier, but you can solo it, which is something that wasn't as easy to do before because it took, like, if you try to solo it before, it took forever.
Isn't going to solo it.
No. But I mean, now you can move around it and actually, hit the eye on your own. You don't need somebody else to do it. So, like, if you
but like Warwick is going to fuck it up fast.
Yeah, well, especially because, like, if it goes to swing at him, you can just Q right through it and smack it in the back.
Yeah.
I was wondering if this would decide the jungle meta, but I think all the meta junglers could probably solo it right now, anyways.
Yeah, I would say that's the case, except for like maybe Ivern and a couple others, just because
Ivern definitely can't.
Yeah, he's
got Daisy.
Well, he has Daisy, but and mind you, he could walk through and smack it in the back, but that's still going to take a significant amount of time.
But I mean, in theory, your top laner can come down too.
Right.
It's a different scenario, of course. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't know, like, a lot of people don't have a lot of experience with taking Rift Herald presently because it was just so not a good idea for the longest time. Like, there were so many better things to do that there's like, it's not as simple as we pushed out their bot lane, let's go take it. Let's go take dragon. I think it's going to be like it's going to be way, not more niche, but like it's going to be much more difficult with a lot more risk involved, where if they make it back in time and can get to you, you might give up 2 kills and maybe that as well.
There's more risk involved, but there's also that this is a front-loaded benefit, whereas you see way more benefit out of dragons as you accumulate them and as your stats go up, especially if you get Infernal or something like that, over the course of the game, and that's something that you play for the long game sort of thing. This is more of, if you get it, you get the bank. You pretty much get the bank money early, unless they send the enemy jungler and whoever up to deal with it.
Well, no, so like early game comps should definitely be prioritizing this.
Yeah.
Like you have to, because it doesn't. I mean, like if you're just up against a late game team and your team's a mismatch, or you just have kind of this, for whatever reason, you guys all drafted these early game champions and everything. You have to go for this thing because your window to win that game is going to close way earlier otherwise. I don't know, the way I like to play this game and the way Adam tends to like play this game, I really think this is an important objective, and I'm almost willing to say it's more important than any early dragon except for Infernal Drake.
I would say this is more important than First Dragon unless it's Infernal.
Yeah.
I could make an argument for Ocean if the team was like really mana dependent, but
I'd like
still.
this.
Or long laning.
Yeah.
I like that this is in here because I think it's going to force more team fights around the objective. Like, for the most part, we see a lot of LCS. Like, what's going to do, like, if we look at LCS, for example, the games at MSI, the first and only dragon that was taken in one of the games this weekend was Cloud Drake, and it was taken at the very end, the last Drake that could spawn before
Elder,
thank you, could spawn, because no one wants Cloud Drake, because it's helpful, but it's not super massively helpful when it comes to the pros playing the game, so they just left it up and no one touched it. And the same thing with a lot of those dragons that are not Infernal, no one really fights over them. They just kind of give them up because they realize they're not super, Earth Drake helps quite a bit to take objectives, but it's not needed. You don't absolutely need it to be able to siege and do anything in the game. So you can give up 3 to the 4 of the dragons pretty comfortably to get this, especially how much damage it's doing, or especially how much damage it's doing to turrets.
Well,
I don't think we've noticed that. Like, at one charge, chunks a turret for a quarter of its life, if not more, depending on
I think it's
the
more.
turret.
This gets super scary in that even let's say you're jungling on bottom side and the enemy jungler ganks top and they kill your top laner and you're not there to show up, they could easily get Rift Herald and turn that one kill into a bunch of free money.
I wonder if this means that there's going to be less attention in bot lane.
That's exactly what I'm thinking, is that depending on what your team comp is, you very well might see, you know, some people pay, not me, but some people pay a lot more attention to bot and whatnot. Like, you're going to see.
I've never run into a jungler that does that. I
don't
know what that is.
I mean, this is even less incentive for me to ever swing bottom lane if I can take advantage of this early, in that, like, that's 400 gold in my pocket if I can pull it out. Like, if I can pull this out early.
Shira.
Well,
yeah,
if we're
there all
playing,
day.
Warm for you.
But see, if we're playing a competitive game, we're playing S5, I think this becomes one of those those types where we hit level 6 and then we're swapping lanes, because you want your bottom lane top to be able to contest that objective, assuming that Infernal Drake isn't up, because
ruin my dreams.
It's going to happen. I'm sure they're trying to incentivize some strategic lane swapping with this to allow them to get an early Rift Herald, but at the same time, I think there's going to be a lot more swapping around of lanes.
I
will say right now, if it is so good that the duo lane moves top just so that you can try and have better control over this objective, they're going to nerf it. They're going to nerf it real fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If that happens. They're probably going to nerf it real fast anyway. It just seems really, really strong. But if the duo lane moves top every single game, they're definitely going to nerf it.
So one thing that we haven't considered yet, and I think that's mostly because we haven't seen this in game. Like, you can see the videos of it charging a turret and see how quickly it takes on a turret. The other thing that we haven't really talked about or know is how easy it is to defend against once it's up there. And obviously, we're saying that, okay, the eye still opens. You can hit it on defense, essentially, to keep chunking it. Which I was thinking about earlier when we were talking about, you just teleport bot and, like, throw it in a lane or something. And obviously, if it's undefended by champions, they can just walk on the other side and probably hit it. And worst case, you've lost like 50% of a turret HP if it's undefended. But I'm going to be curious to see how easy it is to prevent it from really snowballing the game. Like, if you're not ahead, or if you don't hold on to the buff, wait to kill your top lane opponent and then drop it. Obviously, in that scenario, if you don't get 2 turrets, you've probably really messed up. I'm curious how it's going to go, because it takes so little damage from turrets normally. Like, the only real way to deal with it is to have a champion on the other side hitting in the eye.
All the videos I've seen of it, though, just real quick, sorry, Dom, I know you need to jump in here. You could jump in right after this. Just to your point about turrets, it doesn't get targeted by turrets first like every other minion out there. The minion wave gets targeted before Rift Herald gets targeted, so it has to go through the entire six or 7 minions of a wave before it starts.
So if you build up a really big wave with that, it's going to just do whatever it feels like unimpeded.
Right, and so it's just going to stand there and hit the turret. So yeah, go ahead, Dom.
It's really susceptible to crowd control, but there are a lot of top laners who are played pretty regularly who don't have any type of crowd control that's going to work on this thing. Fiora, Gangplank, Jace, like all those champions. Well, Jace has the knockback.
But even then, from my understanding, it doesn't have any different stats than what it does when it's in the pit. And if it's taking a minute and a half to kill it as a solo person, think about that on top of somebody harassing you or other minions.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're gonna need your jungler is probably gonna have to go up there and dedicate time, or the support's gonna have to swing up.
I was gonna say,
which would be interesting, but then that totally fucks over like you're giving up bot lane at that point.
Well, I mean, what if somebody gets it on the other team? You may see a swap from your team up there to send its ADC and support up there to deal with it, so that they can kind of zone other people off too. You might see something like that. I could actually even see this being used in that if you could pick it up early instead of sending it down top, which would be great. And you could do that if you absolutely had to. You could send it down bot while you take dragon too. And again, you're gonna like this change just makes it this feels like dominoes, and that if you can get it and you can drop it before you go for another objective. I mean, you could drop it in mid lane, you could drop it in top, and if they don't show up to deal with it, or if they do show up to deal with it, you just push somewhere else. Like this is the ultimate distraction thing, and
it's the ultimate. I'm really. From York,
right? Exactly. I'm super excited to see how this plays out, and just because like it adds a whole different X factor to decisions that are made, and like people picking it up at certain times. Like this could be such a change that it changes up the flow of the game. I mean, if you can get it early enough, you could force the game to go to mid game way faster than we've seen it go to mid game in the past too. I mean, if you got this early enough and you can take down a turret, and then your top laner can go rejoin somewhere else, and you start shoving stuff down anyway, you could technically start the mid game like 3-4 minutes earlier.
I'm gonna find myself missing clairvoyance being in the game as a result of this change.
You don't trust your top laner to ward that?
It's not really a trust thing. Wards expire. You can't have permanent coverage on that and everything, and just sort of like being able to check not necessarily the Herald pit itself, but somewhere where the jungler might be, and then like trying to figure out, okay, they're gearing up to do Rift Herald. I can like leave bottom for a minute or for 90 seconds or something, and go and contest for help.
It makes the Rift Scuttler on top side way more important to grab too.
Yeah.
Way more important.
It incentivizes junglers to fight around the river and fight around the Rift Scuttler, and you have to take it if you're that side. Now, you don't necessarily have to take it on your first clear, but we're talking around level 5, 6, 7, and higher. That Scuttler needs to be under control, and the jungler has to be buying pink wards that drop down around that item. It's like it's going to be the jungler's job, jungler and top laner's job, to protect that buff, and that actually leaves the top laner a little more susceptible because the top laner now can't ward.
It's going to be around a bit more.
Right. And this is the rare objective in the game that your opponent can't get back later on. You know, you can, if they get your turret, you can get the turret later, like you can get someone else's turret later on in the game and everything. But if they get this, like you can't make up for the damage that this has done and the money spike that you're getting right there and then. No,
I don't think it's the end all. With all this talk about
I think it's unique in that regard.
Sure. It's it's the money spike when you kill it, absolutely. It's just I don't think this Rift Herald becomes the end all be all. I do think it's probably going to eat a nerf within a patch or two after it comes out. It's going to be one of those where they're not going to nerf it in 7.10, maybe not even 7.11, because people are going to be playing around with it so often they'll give it a month. But I think it's going to eat some kind of nerf, even if it's just the spawn time or the amount of life it has, or the fact that it doesn't get targeted.
Honestly, I see one of the things they probably end up changing is the duration of being able to hold on to the item before throwing it down. I see them shortening that. I bet once you get it, you have like a 2-minute window rather than a 4.
Sure.
Is my guess what they'll change.
I'm imagining this world where top laners with teleport get it, then they go to bot lane, drop the item or drop the Rift Herald, and then teleport back to their lane.
They could do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do that.
I mean, I feel like it's more towards Sean's thing here, where people are going down to contest dragon and they drop it in lane and force you to either deal with us at a dragon or lose a tower because
if you get this as a top laner and the enemy top laner uses teleport and you're holding on this item, that is a no-brainer for dropping it in lane and then just teleporting bottom to get a free dragon.
I don't think top laners are going to take it. I think junglers are going to take this. I think junglers can be anywhere on the map at any time.
That's true as well. That's true as well.
God, I disagree so hard on those last points. Like, I think that with that item, if you're just going to drop it and say, I hope this gets a turret, giving up something that I think is worth, if you're paying attention to it, like helping it out, 2 turrets easily, and then just saying, nah, I want to get dragon instead afterwards. Like you've already invested so much to get this much harder thing to get, and you're like, well, let's get the dragon too, but this will, I guess, hit a turret a couple times.
But it's really not that much harder to get.
Yeah, but the possible reward off of it is so much higher than one dragon.
Oh, most definitely.
That's
it
not
becomes
necessarily
more important than first dragon.
That's
unless
not
it's
necessarily true, because we could, by the time that we drop this to go take a turret, right, we could be dropping it where it's taking their tier 2 turret, and we are now on second Infernal Drake. And now
right.
we are
sure.
Obviously there's scenarios for everything that makes it good or bad, and I agree with your point in that it could, but I do think this becomes the fact where we're dropping on one side of the map and it's pushing so hard that the enemy can't deal with it, because like I said, if it takes a minute and a half to solo it, I'm just throwing a random number out my ass here, that you have, and then they are forced to come bot because you want to have that team fight so they don't get aced. There's just so much shit that happened because you could ace the enemy team, or not ace. You could 5 versus 4 the enemy team by dragging the top laner's top and dealing with it, and now you have these objectives.
It's the 5 versus 4 that becomes the most important thing, in that, like, I see the dream situation for this being, if you can force the enemy top laner to burn teleport, you still have yours. You have the top laner has this item. They're able to drop it in top after they force the enemy top laner to back or something like that. And then as soon as you want to, you can go dragon and take it. And then as 5, just go out and shove bottom, or go out and shove middle, or 5-man dive bottom, which is what we see left in, like, you see 4-man dives bottom, you see 5-man dives bottom. Like, this is just going to facilitate that. Like, it's almost a guarantee to facilitate that, because they still have to go send somebody to deal with it. So for X amount of time while that thing is still alive, you're going to have a numbers advantage on wherever you decide to push, and you're probably getting a free dragon out of this. That is incredible.
That's worth
There's something that's worth noting that they have in their update and we didn't cover. Apparently, like, if she's not protected, she's going to be taken down super quick because it takes more damage, can be stunned. Everything. That's what I think the issue is. If you throw it in one place and never help it, you're going to waste it, because I think they're going to kill it. Imagine if you could take Rift Herald, but it wasn't ever attacking you. That's essentially the scenario. But obviously, it's dealing damage to a turret in the meantime.
Yeah, like, if it takes a minute and a half to kill this thing, imagine trying to kill this thing while an enemy hero is also harassing you during the meantime.
Oh,
like, it's impossible to kill.
Crazy. That's
it's impossible to deal with that.
Right.
So if you're a solo laner by yourself, and then the enemy solo laner is protecting that Rift Herald, then okay, jungler, I need the jungler, and I need somebody else come here and deal with this, because I can't stop this.
There's so many
You could
good
send the
strategies.
support. You could send the support with this thing, and just have the support harass people while they're on it, and still make it
Zyra, Brand, whatever.
easily.
No, I mean, those are all champions that are really, really easy to jump on and murder.
Yeah, they could just run past the Herald at that point.
Yeah.
That's
Like that's the catch there.
Job in the meantime,
that's the catch there, is that, like, the champion still has to be able to deal with the other people around.
Well, I mean, somebody like Karma can just shield and root and do other things to, like, be an annoyance, not necessarily like.
She can protect the Herald really well, but the moment they turn their attention to her, like, she's got to get out of there, and then the Herald's dead.
See, I don't necessarily
because the Herald's not going to attack.
Karma does well. For example, if we're just going to use Karma and Zyra do well in solo lanes. So if you are good enough,
we're talking about supports who are on support income.
And you're talking about defending something instead of playing 1v1 scenario. You're talking about defending something that is in the side of the map that the enemies can't deal with.
If that's the case, you still have to make the choice between whether or not you're going to end up, like, it's going to be way harder to deal with defending against something while being attacked than defending against something, like, than trying to zone out somebody else while you're attacking something. Whenever you're going to have to deal with the extra variable of somebody being there, regardless if it's the top lane or the support, the mid lane or whoever, it's going to be way more difficult to deal with than just sending it down the lane by itself and smacking it down.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, then I agree now, because that was my point, was that it's stupid to send it by itself at any scenario.
I'm saying you can send it by itself. You get more, you're going to get more benefit out of the Rift Herald purely by using it on its own if you have somebody else that's there, but you're going to be able to, like, just because you get a bigger benefit out of sending it with someone doesn't mean you can't send it on its own.
Now, does this open up to some if we give it to the top laner, for example, and not the jungler, does this open up to some teleport mind games where they are fighting 4v4 and now you, as the team with Rift Herald, are teleporting bot and the enemy has to decide, do I lose the top tower and come and make that team fight 5v5, or do I stop it and then leave it a 5v4? You know, like a lot of, again, we're going back to the LCS, for example, a lot of teleports are matched 1-for-1.
Or what you just do is whoever gets it holds on to it. You just 5-man fight an objective somewhere. If you're able to ace them, you just immediately drop it and take 2 turrets for it.
Yeah, that's the end all be all. I mean, that's what everybody wants scenario, right? So I'm
the murder and eat your cake.
Yeah, I think we have a lot to still see with like actual numbers and seeing it in game before.
Sure.
Obviously, we have a while to. Do we want to play PvE tonight? That actually would be pretty funny to try it out.
Yeah, I don't have it installed. So.
Yeah, unfortunately,
we don't have enough accounts.
I have 2, but I think Dom uses my other one.
Yeah, never mind. All right.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're within this group. There are conflicting opinions on Rift Herald because it'll be interesting to see when we do get to play with it. Excuse me. Over the next few weeks, how well it plays out, and if Sean will actually pay attention to the team and play toward the team and team objectives. Sean,
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just going to play Udyr every single game, take this thing on my own, and then go split push for the rest of the game with a giant friend.
You know what this is going to be? This is going to be the case where Sean decides to start camping bottom lane now that Rift Herald is available because he deems that Rift Herald isn't worth it. And it'll be the complete opposite of what he does now with Turek.
Sean doesn't know what bot lane is.
No. I don't care about you guys.
That's the spirit.
That's it. I just don't care about you guys.
If only you would give me some gold, Sean.
Hey, Adam, how about you just die less?
Remember when I tell you I wouldn't die so much if you would just give me gold.
Ooh, how about you just die less?
Well, let's talk about some of the items changes because I'm going to leave you guys to talk about the support shit on Wednesday because I kind of want Santana's point of view on that because I feel like he's going to have a good conversation have strong opinions, have a good conversation with Dom about the support items because he's just he's very opinionated, and that's what we like about him.
She's not going to watch this show, but if she would, my fiance would not be happy here because no, it's fine. I told her I had to do this show because we were going to talk about the support items.
Well, you tell her you have to do the show Wednesday because I won't be here. You have 2 excuses.
She's working Wednesday. She's working right now and everything, so it's no big deal.
Oh shit! Then see, I don't give a fuck. All right, let's talk about poetry.
You didn't give a fuck anyway.
Yeah, I did. I did a little. Let's talk about the items because there's more items being changed. We went over all the tank items last Wednesday, and now obviously this is Monday. We're recording. We're going to talk about primarily, I guess, marksman update items or around that fighter marksman updates. So first item we're talking about, which is not a marksman item, but it is Poacher's Dirk. For those of you that don't know what Poacher's Dirk is and if it was in the game at all.
And you're not alone. I bet
what you're blinking there tells the best story out of all of us here.
I remember us doing the preseason and going, well, this item might be good, and then we started playing and realized, well, there's no reason to buy this item over Serrated Dirk.
Right.
Yeah. So they lowered the cost by 150. Sorry, I jumped into it accidentally.
I wanted you to explain Poacher's Dirk first, and then.
Okay, so the idea of Poacher's Dirk was an item that's worse than Serrated Dirk, but transforms into it when you poach 3 large monsters from the enemy jungle, and you have a small cooldown, a minute on there, where you can't just like go 1 clear of the jungle, enemy jungle, and just suddenly have this taken care of. But it's got obviously shittier stats. It's less cost, and so it's kind of a way to give the jungler a cull kind of amount of boost somehow. But no one bought it because it's bad, and there's really wasn't as much of a benefit because you're only getting 350 gold worth of stats when it gets upgraded to a Serrated Dirk, and you have to still get 3 large monsters from the enemy jungle after you've spent 750 gold already. So I buy to start in the beginning of the game.
I spend every moment that I can in the enemy jungle, and this item's 150 gold cheaper, and I'm still never going to buy it.
The premier counter junglers are not interested in this item.
They don't need it.
Yep. Cool. That was a great talk. The only other changes was so 150 gold difference. In addition to it being that much cheaper also means that's 150 gold of extra additional value you get when it transforms. So it becomes a 500 gold essential buff. If you ever transform this item, I have literally never seen this been played. I don't know if I'm assuming at least one person has pulled this off. The other changes, you lost 5 AD because of the gold difference, and the cooldown did get lowered from 60 to 50 seconds, so it's a bit easier to proc it, but you're still like, I don't know, like it's easier objectively, but it's still so bad. The problem, like, I don't know what you're gonna do with this.
I don't think it's so much that the fact that this is cost effective. It's just that none of the junglers want the items that Serrated Dirk upgrade into because they nerfed the shit out of lethality, and they also nerfed Ghostblade, for example.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about this, and it's sort of like has everybody playing the game been thinking about this wrong, and it's actually mid laners who should be getting this? But then even in that case, no, because how much time do they have to spend? Like, in the time it would take them to get 3 camps, like they could have long since purchased Serrated Dirk.
Yeah, I'm thinking that.
I mean, I'm thinking like Talon or Zed or something like that, you know. But it's just like, or they could just farm up the way they normally would, get the experience, you know, focus on their opponent and everything, and then get Serrated Dirk when they would want to anyway.
There's no reason not to pick up Serrated Dirk because you get 10 lethality. Like, you get the extra AD and you get 10 lethality. So yeah, you're better off farming it up and getting that lethality and using lethality earlier to do what you're doing than you are to pick up extra AD and then try to go steal race 3 times. Like, it's just not worth the gold investment for a mid laner to do that ever.
I mean, the story changes if Serrated Dirk built into Warrior, but it don't.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I do appreciate what they're doing with this because they are taking an item that's clearly just it's not even underplayed. It's 5 tiers below that.
It's
Wits End has at least seen play in the past. This is not. And I mean, Poacher's Knife back in what was that, last season was if you forgot, one of the jungle items you could get, and it still didn't see play because you would get like a move speed buff after you stole like an enemy camp if you smited it. Smote it, whatever.
Sweet.
And so they're at least trying to give some added incentive to it, and I do appreciate the way that they're doing it, is saying here's more value you can get out of it, but you still have to like you guys are saying, the people who might take advantage of it, maybe not even really Graves, maybe Kha'Zix, Rengar, who might go Ghostblade. Like, lethality already got dropped. I mean, lethality already got hurt. Why? Like, there's no reason to keep going all these lethality junglers as much.
Stop trying. Item's still just not great.
It's bad.
I mean, again, and all those champions are people who would rather just be hunting somebody down and murdering them and getting the money that way instead of counter jungling.
If it was like 2 camps, I feel like you could maybe make a better. Yeah, obviously it'd be a better.
I mean, that'd be pretty easy, because if you are playing champions like that, you could just sit in you could sit in the jungle waiting for them, kill them, and then take this on the way out.
Sure.
And get a benefit out of that. But even still, there's better items you can buy with the same amount of money.
Well, speaking of better items you can buy, how about Doran's Shield, which you could buy at the beginning of the game?
You can buy it any time of the game.
True.
Honestly.
Primarily bought at the beginning of the game. Total cost is now 400 gold. The unique passive, basic attacks deal an additional 5 physical damage to minions on hit. Another unique passive that is gained is regain an additional 20 health over 10 seconds after taking damage from enemy champion. No longer reduces auto attack and single target spell damage by 8. So instead of reducing damage, you're just gaining extra life back every time you get hit. I think Doran's Shield, I think it's pretty obvious. Like, we don't have to say, but I'm going to, is that some top laners are going to take this in the specific matchups where they're being harassed. Like, that's end all be all. But I think the more important piece of this is that this becomes potentially an 80 carry item in those matchups where they're having a tough time and they know they're going to be harassed, and they know they potentially could lose lane because they are now able to sit in lane last hit and stay alive.
I mean, this seems like it would be good on any AD carry that has a slightly shorter auto attack range than whoever they're laning against, just in that now they can go and last hit something, back off, and not be punished as hard for getting hit by that one auto.
Aren't you giving up all hope of trading then?
Yes.
Like, you're saying I'm going to lose every trade. So
Which if you're playing
doubling down on that.
It's the type of situation where, like, if you're up against Varus Zyra and your support is Braum or something, like most of those trades you're not going to win.
Yeah, good luck on winning those trades.
Or that's
the situation. Yeah. I mean, like there are lanes where you simply like, nope, I just am gonna wait and farm because and wait for them to make a mistake or be out of mana or something, and then that's when we start going at them. But yeah, I mean, to your point, yes, you're giving up hope of trading, but there are lanes where that's just kind of the case going into it.
After you play, and you should know as much after you play enough bottom lanes, you just kind of know the matchups that you're going to not do.
I just like to avoid those matchups at all cost, I guess is my point.
Is that why you play
I never want to go into a game where I'm like, yep, I'm going to farm for 15 minutes under turret.
That's why you play Draven.
You don't go into it with that intent, but like some champions like happens, and sometimes you get into a bad matchup.
It's also worth. I don't think we really touched on this yet. You do get another potion now with this.
Yeah,
like you do have you have 100 gold instead of 100, or sorry, instead of 50. So that's the other advantage to it. Like it's not just like the gaining additional health is interesting to me because it's essentially saying if you don't take, what would this be?
More than 2 autos.
2 autos in like a 10-second window. Then you're benefiting from this.
You're not getting traded against as hard if you're just taking one auto. And this seems like,
I mean, I think it's. I was gonna say I also feel like melee versus range top laners would be very into this. A little, depending on who you are, not like Pantheon. You don't want to like waste all that damage, but
let's also keep in mind it has 6 flat health regeneration on it. Like it doesn't have the 50% base health regen or anything like that. It just comes with 6 flat health per 5.
But I mean, if you get autoed, you get 8, so that's still nice.
Sure. I like this. I'm really looking forward to seeing people build this. I like the fact, like Mitch said that you can build this if you're playing Mundo into Kennen, for example, or you're playing into Teemo. You can build this item, and then when you get auto attacked, you're gaining some of that life back, and you have a better time.
If it's either this or you stick with cloth and 5 pots.
Yeah,
depends on. I mean, if it's Teemo or Kennen, then you're like, okay, there's some AP damage there.
The cloth and 5 pot classic, and that this lane isn't going to be fun for me. Let's last as long as I can until I have to back.
Yep.
I mean, that has nothing on the old Garen 13 health pot start.
That's true.
You guys remember?
I miss Katarina. I miss Katarina 13 health pots. That was so stupid.
Oh.
Top lane Katarina, good old boy. Let's talk about Blade of the Ruined King, Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge, because the cost has been normalized between all 3 items to be 3,400 gold. Now, this is a nerf to Blade of the Ruined King, as it is costing 100 more gold to put together. However, Essence Reaver and Infinity Edge have had their cost reduced by 200 gold each. So
wow, that's crazy that the one that's getting built by everybody is getting a little bit of a nerf.
This is a pretty negligible nerf as far as that item goes. It's still really good. You know, they didn't touch the stats on it. I don't know. I like it I like what it's doing otherwise here. Now it's now saying like you don't get a gold benefit just because you're picking a champion that prefers Blade of the Ruined King to a crit item.
I'm going to jump ahead just for a quick moment and talk about Runon's Hurricane, because this ties in with Caitlyn, who is normally an Infinity Edge builder, because most of the champions that are being played right now are not building Infinity Edge unless your name is Caitlyn, or potentially Jinx, right? But even Jinx, Caitlyn, Ashe is building Blade of the
Ruined King. She's getting Essence Reaver.
No, Blade
of the Ruined King.
She's going Bork.
She's getting Bork. So unless your name is like Jinx Caitlyn, Jinx Caitlyn was doing BF Sword into Runon's, so Runon's is actually getting a nerf in this patch, even though that these 2 champions are getting not a pseudo buff, but are getting a straight buff with Infinity Edge. So I'm just going to jump down there real quick with Runon's, where it costs the same, but the combined cost has changed to reflect the Zeal price reduction. It is now a Dagger Zeal Dagger at 800 gold rather than a recurve bow Zeal 300 gold. The big changes to this is you lose 15 physical damage on hit, but you gain extra damage with your bolts based on your total AD. It's up to 40%. So you're not doing that extra damage to the single target.
Main target. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
but essentially your bolts doing the same amount of damage. because it evens out at 100 AD.
Right. Which, that's actually a pretty big nerf to champions like Caitlyn, because you would build Hurricane second because you are getting that 15 extra AD and you're able to stack your passive, but without that extra 15 AD, you are obviously just eating a straight nerf with it. So as much as I'm really happy to see that Infinity, Essence Reaver, and Bladed Ruin King are all being normalized, I don't think this is like a straight buff to Caitlyn, more so than it is a straight buff to like Jhin. Jhin and Draven get straight buff with those changes over Caitlyn Jinx, for example.
Well, could it go back to getting a BF sword and a rapid fire cannon? I mean, that got buffed a tiny bit because you energize faster with these changes that they're adding for rapid fire cannon, but it's not a huge increase. But I know at one point, rapid fire cannon used to be the go-to zeal item first.
Well, rapid fire would also be something that would work, if I remember correctly, with warlords, because all of the energizing is one stat now. Like you would say, like, I don't know if that's a possible thing that you'd be running, but it would synergize a little bit, because they're something that's also part of this is energized is now like a single effect. So rapid fire, static, I believe warlords as well, all have the same ticker and all still would expend their charges at the same time to do all of their shit. Sure. But I think you would get a benefit to rapid fire with warlords. But I don't know, are people building rapid fire cannon right now? I know that this might be trying to get it back in there.
Yeah, they are.
On Caitlyn with Runins?
Yes. Your normal build path on Caitlyn is BF, Runins, Boots, Infinity Edge, Rapid Fire Cannon, into Last Whisper. Unless you are behind, then you go Last Whisper, Rapid Fire Cannon.
It gives her that extra range.
He's so low.
But it gives her extra range.
It's all about the headshot damage.
Okay.
Because of Runon's stacking the headshot faster.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
A ton of damage. Right. Yeah, she is the only one here that's like that weird build path where you just get a fuckload of attack speed. So I'm really interested because we can jump down to Death's Dance now. I know this is probably more of a buff to like Alawi, Pantheon.
Alawi.
I love this item on Lee Sin.
Death's Dance. I think this is a direct buff to Jhin at some point, because Death's Dance attack damage increased to 80 from 75. The unique passive went up by 15%. It is now 30% of the damage taken is dealt as a bleed over 3 seconds. And I think, Dom, you want to point this out to me, that there's no reason to really look at BT over Death's Dance anymore.
I just don't see why you would ever get Bloodthirster over this item, because you get the same damage either way. You don't get as much lifesteal for your auto attacks, but your abilities are also now going to be healing you. And you get cooldown reduction from Death's Dance. Bloodthirster has the overhealing shield, but that shield's only there if you started at full health. And the Death's Dance is also reducing incoming damage. So I'm just sort of like, what on earth is the appeal of Bloodthirster to anybody?
I think Draven would still take Bloodthirster, but I don't know anyone else besides him.
Does he, though? Does he?
Why?
When Draven is hitting so goddamn hard with his axes, does he need that shield when he's doing? Because reason Draven
also the increased lifesteal. Yeah.
Sure.
When he's doing that huge chunk, that extra little bit of lifesteal helps, and then
that's the case too. But now incoming damage is going to be slowed down that much more, and that we're going to run into the difference of you can just front load all that lifesteal back, or he's still going to be getting health back, and now you don't just explode him as quickly.
Well, my point is...
Plus you press R, and you get a fucking bunch of life coming your way
If you hit more than one person, you get a shitload of life.
Do you remember when Draven had his passive where it was a bleed, and how powerful he was with the bleed? That's why I wonder if Death's Dance becomes now the Draven item, because he's getting that bleed back.
What? That's not
the bleed. The bleed's on damage coming to you, man. It's not you doing damage. It's taking damage.
Fair, but
it's reverse blood.
Now he's the one who bleeds.
But no, even if the damage you're taking is going back to them, it's not obviously exactly the same because you're not hitting him as much. But I'm curious, because Draven is in the thick of things, and a lot of times he likes to 2 or 3v1 and call it worth. And then give you the extra bit.
I see this. I see this as the added benefit of you take the damage, but you're taking it slower right off the bat. So it's going to be, whereas if you had Bloodthirster and you had full health and you got the shield out of this, instead of having a shield, you're just taking that damage slower immediately, and you could just heal back that.
But now think of the
isn't
number
it
of
carry his health pool isn't that huge anyways, so this isn't as helpful when you've got a small health pool.
But think about the number of situations where you don't have time to build up the shield.
Right.
Now instead, so take that out of the equation. If you can reduce all of the damage coming your way, by 15%,
or slow it down at least.
You know, like if Talon or Zed or something shows up and everything, 15% of their damage might be the difference between you dying and you living long enough to start hitting them back.
Well, not to mention.
Are we still talking about Draven or other people now?
Anybody really, but Draven's like as good a candidate to talk about there.
I mean,
Draven's going to stack up that shield really fast though, because he's always pushing the lane. Like he always has that shield up.
But it's not just about always pushing the lane. This is like if you're fighting at Dragon, you haven't had the time. Like if you're getting ready to fight at Dragon, you haven't had the time to be able to build up a shield. Like this is going to become sort of the all-purpose version of that, and that no matter what, you're getting a 30% damage delay that somebody might be able to throw a shield on or something else in the in-between. Yes, if you had the shield, it functionally adds to your health pool while it's active. But this is in like the surprise, like you get hit by something and then
certain situations, yeah.
Yeah,
but I mean, like Draven's getting a Bloodthirster so he can dominate the lane, which is going to do which is going to happen it should happen every time you pick Draven. You're getting Bloodthirster, you're pushing the lane, you're building up the shield, and then you start 2v1 the enemy team because you're Draven.
And that's fine. If Draven is the one champion that still wants Bloodthirster, well, okay then. But every other 80,
and that's okay.
I'm just saying it's like every other 80 carry. I'm just sort of looking at this as like, why would I pick the Bloodthirster over a Death Stance?
This item looks really good. I think it looked really good when it first came out, but obviously it was lackluster.
But right now, is anyone picking either? I know that this is obviously a very good buff for Death Stance, but like who's taking? Okay, yeah, but of 80 carries, I don't think anyone's taking Bloodthirster besides as we're talking about Draven.
Yeah, right. That's it. No, you're right there. It's
I know. Obviously, it makes it more attractive. I get that, but like it doesn't seem like there's been that much of a need for it. No. Like when you already have Bork on pretty much everybody.
Right.
I specifically like the build path of this item because it is Caulfield's Pickaxe, a Vampiric Scepter, and that appeals to Draven at a certain time in the game, if we're just going to pick on him, for example, because Draven can get a single kill in lane, come back with a Caulfield's, get a couple kills, go back, pick up Pickaxe, etc. Right?
Why would you want Caulfield?
Because if you're picking up a kill early, you're only walking back with like 1,200 gold, if that 1,200, 1,100 gold. So then you pick up Caulfields rather than waiting out that extra 100. There are odd points in the game. We all know that. So whatever it is.
Let's not even use Draven in this example. Let's use anybody else that would buy a Caulfield's. Like anybody else that could buy a Caulfield's. That item turns into like 4 other things.
Sure.
This is back to you have options to choose from. What do you need at the moment? You can sit on this item for a while because, like, for fuck's sake, if you build it into something else, you're probably going to get another Caulfield sometime soon.
Yeah, but BF Sword also turns into a bunch of things, and so does a Vamp Scepter.
That's definitely true, but like I don't know, I see this being way more. Like I could see this on a bunch of 80 carries, but I still see this as being the go-to sort of top lane one.
Do you think Fiora would get this?
I could see that.
I think she might.
Why would she?
Crazy amount. Well, somebody who can heal a crazy amount in like a very.
Why would she?
She's also someone that used to buy BT.
And it's also something like, again, you can slow the damage down, like incoming damage down on her, so that she can maybe survive an extra second or two to kill somebody with her ult up and get all her health back.
Wouldn't you rather just want a Hydra at that point?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, that's the one that we should be comparing on, I think, Melee.
Okay, los dos. Get both, baby.
Yeah, I was going to say both.
Just looking at the Death Stance purchase stats and everything, Hydra and Death Stance are the highest winning combo there.
I mean, instead of just getting Ravenous, she could get Death Dance and Titanic. So...
Well, let's talk about the rest of the items since we're walking here toward the end of the podcast. Ravenous Hydra, speaking of, attack damage has been increased by 5 to 80. Last Whisper penetration changed from 45 to 35%. Now, this is a nerf, specifically after we had talked a while ago where they changed Last Whisper to add the extra damage to it. So now you can no longer just buy the Last Whisper and sit on it. You're building that into Dominic's Immortal right away. I think I'm specifically looking at Dom, who had brought up that point a while ago, if he remembers talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, but this is right in line with all the other nerfs to percent armor pen like that. They changed it on all the items.
Sure.
Which is funky because they just had all those armor updates on all the items.
Yeah, it's because they got rid of health.
Yeah, so that's interesting. But it's weird. You'd think it might have gone the other way with armor penetration. If you added more armor but took away armor penetration, you're like saying it's going to be more difficult, even though the health has gone down.
Yeah, there's a change to cleaver on here, which also affects this conversation. But it's one of those where it's like if it turns into League of Tanks for 2 weeks, this is a really quick change to revert that.
Sure. So, Lord Dominic's, the total cost is now down to 2,600 gold from 2,700. Giant Slayer effect increased from 15 to 20% of bonus physical damage. Damage per 100 health difference changed from 1.5 to 2%. Armor penetration is now down to 35%, of course, to be in line with Last Whisper. Mortal Reminder, again, 2,600 gold. Combined cost lowered to 300 gold, and penetration down to 35% from 45%.
Wait, how does the cost go down 100, but the combined cost went down 300?
Because Mortal Reminder is building out of Executioner's Calling, which is cheaper to purchase than... Is it? No, it's 800 gold, and Giant Slayer 600 gold.
No, but I mean, just in those two lines, that doesn't make sense unless something in the build path changed. Like combined cost lowered by 300, total cost lowered by 100.
I didn't check that.
Sorry. That's not important for right now. We should move on before we just check math for a little bit, because that's like hell for a podcast.
Remind me, was anybody buying Lord Dominic's over Mortal Reminder, or was it
Not
always
really.
Mortal Reminder?
There's always.
It seems like there's enough healing in the game now that Mortal Reminders seem to be the just right call, because even if it's just for like an 80 carry, I feel like it was kind of worth it. Lord Dominic's didn't seem very great, but now they are buffing up the amount of damage on their. I thought this was on the last patch.
They nerfed Dominic's Regards pretty hard a while ago, and so nobody's been buying it because it got nerfed pretty bad. But I can't remember before then if it was pretty common.
I don't think that combined cost is actually right. I was just reading. Because
whatever.
I pulled it up on the surrender at 20 and this Mortal Reminder.
I mean, regardless, the total cost is down 100. Like that's all that really matters.
That is on
120.
The combined cost being down to 300 gold. So we'll have to confirm.
Email Mubi.
Yeah.
Mubi, why you don't show me combined costs?
So Lord Dominic's other change is that you're going from a max of 15% bonus physical damage to 20%. So you're getting 2% per 100 health difference instead of 1.5%. But you still lose that 10% armor pen that we talked about with Last Whisper.
So did they just make these changes because there's less health? So is this item still shitty?
We think so, yeah.
So you're still not going to buy it?
No, Mortal Reminder
it's weird.
Is the better one.
So I think that like it made these changes made Last Whisper like objectively worse, but I think that Lord Dominic's getting that health difference makes it a little bit like it's so weird because the health going down in the game, like just health overall on items going down in the game, means that it's more difficult to get this percentage difference damage. Fuck. Like I feel like they're gonna bump that back up to like 40% within a patch or two. It just seems like over nerfing.
Sure. So Kerchi's Shard is getting changed. Total cost went up by 50 gold because they added an extra 10 bonus magic damage, but they did that because Rapid Fire and Static all gained extra damage on their energized attacks. So they're making the Shard have that extra damage.
And they energize faster.
Well,
no, just Rapid Fire Cannon. Rapid Fire Cannon has a specific passive that lets it energize faster versus Static.
Energize 25% faster. Woohoo.
So is that going to affect all energized stealth then, since they're all the same?
It should be one stat that when it ticks up to 100, you just charge all of those at once.
I like that Zeal change, though. 1,200 gold for a Zeal from 1,300. Phantom Dancer cost increased to 2,600. And that's pretty much the item changes in this patch. We've covered the gigantic ones. All the little nuances are still left to be played with and screwed around with.
I'm buying a Poacher's Dirk when we play a game in a minute. And I play exclusively AP mid laners, so we'll
Excellent.
see.
This is a mistake.
I think that's a really good idea for you. By the way, guys, so I'm gonna leave it there. Yeah, that that ends the show at that point.
That's a show.
That's a show. That's everything.
That's all, folks.
That's everything but support items that we've talked about, which they will talk about on Wednesday. Though I'm sure they will go over the support items and any other odd changes that may have happened within the patch, as that should hit here very, very shortly.
Yeah, I did miss one item change for the tank stuff.
That's all right. You can talk about it Wednesday when the patch hits.
Was it Spectre's Cowl? No, just real quick. The MR on it was dropped by 5.
Oh,
woo. So,
no.
Woo. There we go.
Everybody listening to the show is going to remember that Dom said that. Just like they remember how much I said everything's going to cost now, because I don't even fucking remember, and I just sat here for an hour. And I've looked at these patches.
What have we been talking about?
We've been talking about Dota.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right. Been talking tacos.
Tacos and Dota.
Talking tacos.
By the way, guys, I know some of you listening last week, you have donated some extra money to get some replay reviews. I have messaged every single one of you. If you want a replay review as well, you can go to patreon.com/GeForce Network and go sign up, and we'll get you a replay review out. You can use the in-game replays. You can use Plays TV if you want. Get those over to us. Champion Select podcasts are out there. We'll get a couple more out to you next month as well. And that's going to end it. That's episode number 437. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We will see you all on Wednesday with the mid-season update. Have a good night.
See you guys later.